No consequences yet for Ontario's housing minister caught breaking the Integrity Act.
You don't start getting shovels in the ground, guess what? You're done, you're gone.
Instead, Doug Ford directed attention today towards developers. The well-connected business people Steve Clark's office is accused of giving preferential treatment to as the government redrew the boundaries of the protected Greenbelt.
They should obviously take accountability of their, equipment.
Plus, faulty wiring. Why Toronto Hydro is not liable for damage to a customer's property, even if their equipment is what breaks down. CBC Toronto investigates what you need to know to protect yourself.
It's got to be nerve-wracking.
It is very nerve-wracking.
And Gutsy Guides. A snowbird pilot is one of several CNE performers who gave us a behind-the-scenes look at what we can expect this weekend at the fair's famous air show. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. Thanks for joining us this Thursday. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first we're beginning at the CNE tonight, where a popular ride was back up and running, just as Canada's biggest fair steers towards its big finale weekend. The Polar Express has been shut down since Monday night when an 18-year-old was injured on the ride. The attraction was allowed to resume operation today following an inspection by the provincial regulator. Anam Khan joins us live from the X tonight. And Anam, the ride was allowed to get back in action tonight, even though neither the CNE nor the regulator will confirm how the man was injured in the first place.
Right, so the provincial regulator is still investigating the cause of the injury, but it has deemed the ride safe enough to operate after its inspection. And honestly, judging by the enthusiasm here, there's a lot of people really excited to get back on the ride even after this week's injury. For some people, the wait to board the Polar Express was extra long after a nearly 3-day closure of the popular ride.
We've been planning for a couple of days. We waited till today to go, yeah.
And for these riders, it was definitely worth it.
The ride was a pretty solid ride. Very good. 10 out of 10.
It was very safe, very safe, very safe.
It's only fun if you like being squished, but it's fine. Let's go.
He was squishing me.
The Polar Express resumed this morning after it was abruptly shut down on Monday night after an 18-year-old fell off the ride. He was taken to the hospital with injuries.
Whenever there's an injury to a rider, we shut the ride down. The TSSA is the regulatory authority that takes charge. They always inspect and investigate when there's an injury.
Today, the CNE says in 42 years of operation, there's never been a significant incident like this before. The Technical Standards and Safety Authority was called in to investigate as the provincial regulator. It allowed the ride to reopen today and released a statement saying the ride had met safety requirements before it was allowed to operate initially and was found to be safe after TSA's inspection. To help convince riders of the attraction's safety, today the CNE CEO hopped on it himself.
What we know is we inspect this ride every day with our own safety engineers and with the TSSA. TSSA has deemed it safe. You saw me riding. People are having fun. It's a safe ride and a fun ride.
So fun, he did it at least 3 times.
And it felt great every time.
Back in action tonight and back with its regular demand as a fan favorite.
It goes so fast, I remember.
I feel like it goes like 100 kilometers an hour. I don't even know.
That it goes backwards.
It goes backwards and it's fast.
Yeah.
We just like the adrenaline rush.
It looks really fun. It was really fun. I like it. I recommend it.
So yes, clearly lots of excitement here today, and we spoke to a lot of the people here, and they're really eager to find out what happened to the teen and how he was injured. And the provincial regulatory body has not said anything yet, but they have promised a thorough investigation, and that is still ongoing.
But it is nice to see that those people were safely riding that ride again tonight. Thank you, Anam. Anam Khan reporting live for us tonight from the CNE. Over at Queen's Park, it was another rough ride today for the Ford government. The Premier is continuing to prop up his housing minister even after 2 scathing reports finding bias, even deception, within Steve Clark's office as it redrew the Greenbelt boundaries to allow for housing development. Steve Clark finally apologized for bungling the housing file today, but refused to resign over it. Lorenda Redekop has the latest on the fiasco.
To Ontarians, I want to say very sincerely that I apologize.
Housing Minister Steve Clark says he's sorry for not having better oversight of his now former Chief of Staff. The Auditor General had found in her report it was his Chief of Staff, Ryan Amato, who brought forward certain developers' plans that land they owned in the Greenbelt be opened for housing. That could result in an $8 billion increase in their property values. The Integrity Commissioner wrote, "It may seem incredible that Minister Clark would have chosen to stick his head in the sand on such an important initiative, but I believe that was exactly what he did." Clark was asked why he doesn't resign.
I'm here to accept responsibility, Richard, for the lack of oversight I had in the process.
All three opposition parties say Clark must go. The NDP put together a video of him while in opposition, calling for a Liberal minister to resign.
There are numerous ministers who have stepped down when they've been named in an investigation.
Earlier, Premier Doug Ford took questions for the first time since this report came out.
I have confidence in Minister Clark. He has a big file. I take full responsibility. The buck stops with me.
Clark has also said the buck stops with him. But at this point, there don't appear to be any consequences. The Premier did talk tough when it comes to developers benefiting from the land swap, like one that tried to sell. The government announcing yesterday that land will be returned to protected status.
If you don't follow the rules, you don't build homes, you don't start getting shovels in the ground, guess what? You're done, you're gone, test me out, try me again, you're going back in the Greenbelt.
He also got testy towards a reporter after this question.
At what point do you take personal responsibility here, and how are people to have trust in your leadership?
The Premier's answer turned into an unusual attack.
A year down the road, if we don't have the homes, you're the first person that's going to be up here saying, why didn't you build the homes? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? We're going to build homes. We're going to build homes until people have the same opportunity that you have. You have a nice home down the street.
All this as another report is still to come. This one focused on the Premier and his daughter's wedding events that developers attended. The Integrity Commissioner's office is still considering whether to investigate, but it will issue a report whatever it decides. The other big question is whether the RCMP will investigate. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
It's a done deal tonight as workers with Metro have voted to ratify the latest contract offer from the company. The deal comes after a month-long strike that saw more than 3,700 employees walk off the job. The union representing the employees says the new deal will see all workers get an immediate raise of $1.50 an hour. Full-time and senior part-time workers will receive a $2 an hour pay increase within months. In a statement this afternoon, Metro says the 5-year deal also improves pensions and benefits. The company says it looks forward to welcoming employees and customers back on Tuesday, September 5th. To the Church and Wellesley neighborhood now, where dozens of people were at Barbara Hall Park tonight to mark International Overdose Awareness Day.
It's important to commemorate people often who have been invisibilized because it's a stigmatized death.
Tonight's event included a candlelight vigil, drummers, and a barbecue meant to honor the lives lost to drug overdose and push for greater awareness to the crisis. The federal government says more than 36,000 people in Canada have died of an overdose since 2016. Tonight's event was held by the nonprofit Street Health Toronto, along with community groups like the 519. People were offered to take home harm reduction supplies and could get on-site naloxone training. 18 degrees and clear skies tonight, heading to a low of 12. Colette is here with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, some beautiful clear skies tonight.
Yes, as we have high pressure setting up, we get the clear skies at night and the sunshine during the day, but it's also helping to push the remnants of what was Idalia, now post-tropical, away from the coastline, away from the folks there, but certainly means it won't have an impact on any Canadian areas. And we have, okay, another cool night tonight, not quite as cool as it was last night with these clear skies. Today's temperatures, well, we started around 10. We did stay in the double digits, Windsor as well, but look at all the single digits we had. And then, of course, warming up into the low 20s. St. Catharines just a little cooler there at 19. Tomorrow, we're going to pick those temperatures up a little bit, and we get a few degrees tonight as well, so 12, that overnight low. Patchy fog possible. Expect that to burn off very quickly in any areas where it does develop tomorrow morning. And then 24 tomorrow afternoon, a tiny bit of humidity. Nothing like we'll be experiencing as we get deeper into the holiday weekend. I'll have that complete forecast, and we'll take another look at what's happening with the tropics when I come back.
All right. Thank you, Colette. Now to a CBC News exclusive. A Scarborough homeowner is at odds with Toronto Hydro after an electrical issue fried appliances in his home. This isn't the first time it happened, but unlike the previous incident, Toronto Hydro is not paying for the thousands in damages it caused. Angelina King explains.
The ignition doesn't ignite anymore. It's going to be $800 for that to just fix that.
Plus, there's the audio equipment, the furnace, water heater, and more, all damaged and costing Vijay Patel more than $5,700, he says.
I think it's unfair that, that people should be burdened with that. So these are the surge protectors that blew.
Patel is out the money after his appliances and electrical equipment were fried because of an overloaded cable owned by Toronto Hydro. The same thing happened in 2014. Back then, Toronto Hydro paid for the damages. So when it happened again this spring, Patel was surprised his claim with Toronto Hydro was denied.
They should obviously take accountability of their, equipment.
Turns out Toronto Hydro only repaid him last time because it incorrectly claimed the problem wasn't from its equipment. This time, the utility company says there was an issue with its underground neutral cable, and the problem is because of an unexpected equipment failure. Still, it won't repay Patel for the damages because they weren't caused by willful misconduct or negligence.
What is willfully? Like you had to come into someone's home and blow equipment up? So I think, it is a strange policy.
That policy comes from the provincial regulator, the Ontario Energy Board. Toronto Hydro said it can't comment on individual complaints, but said if the involved asset has been properly inspected and maintained, was within its useful life, and there was no reason for Toronto Hydro to reasonably expect the asset would fail, or if the event was caused by factors beyond the utility's control, Toronto Hydro is not liable for damage to a customer's property.
This is a problem of access to justice generally.
The Consumers Council of Canada says customers in similar positions need access to time and money to fight their case. At the very least, Ken Whitehurst suggests reporting issues to regulators.
If information is not collected about problems and concerns, it won't be addressed.
Patel has appealed his claim denial twice with Toronto Hydro, and it's now at the final review stage. If he's denied again, he's not sure if he'll keep fighting, but he does know he's stuck with Toronto Hydro.
Hey, if I had a choice to go somewhere else, I'd take my business somewhere else right away.
In both instances, Toronto Hydro fixed the cable but didn't replace it, which worries Patel that all this could happen all over again. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back, and a warning for this next story. Some of the images may be disturbing to some viewers. Dog trainers in Toronto are raising the alarm just days before a controversial trainer is set to appear in the city. The dog daddy bills himself as a trainer of reactive and aggressive dogs and uses what is known as aversive conditioning. As Tyler Cheese reports, some local trainers say his methods are outdated and harmful.
The Dog Daddy, real name Augusto de Oliveira, has almost 3 million subscribers on YouTube. He's scheduled to appear in Toronto to offer classes to dog owners this coming long weekend. But local dog trainers say his methods do more harm than good.
I get really concerned when I see that kind of training still present in 2023.
Get it. Andre Yu has been a professional dog trainer for 13 years.
It's really well known that that sort of intervention causes longer term damage to dogs. It doesn't actually help them, and in some cases can make dogs more aggressive and more dangerous. Let's get you back up.
He says positive reinforcement training is better for dogs and is proven more effective.
What a good boy. Look at his body language. That is what we want to see. When we train with suppression, we're really not changing behavior. We're just sort of suppressing behaviors. I can tell you that this is not a method of dog training that we actually condone at Toronto Humane Society. We do use a positive reinforcement approach that is humane.
It's unclear whether the dog daddy could be charged under Ontario's animal welfare laws.
There is a broad provision on distress, and one might argue that it creates a situation of distress the way that trainers are interacting or handling dogs.
The problem is, dog training is currently unregulated in Ontario.
It's an industry that's virtually devoid of any sort of regulation, and this includes public protection. And when we're talking about trainers, this pertains to the methods of training that they use, as well as the scope of their expertise.
In an email, the Ministry of the Solicitor General says Animal Welfare Services will review and respond accordingly to any complaints received. The ministry did not respond to questions about whether the dog daddy's methods could be considered animal abuse or whether or not the province is looking to regulate the industry. As for the local trainers, they say they want people to know there are alternative options, even for highly aggressive dogs.
What I want people to know is professionals like us work with dogs like this every single day. But because we are more cautious and incremental in our approach, you would never know that I'm working with a dog that's dangerous on the street.
CBC Toronto requested an interview with the dog daddy but did not receive a response. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, let's get back to you, Colette, and an update on all the activity that's happening down by the U.S. Southeast.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. As we move into the month of September, finding the tropics couldn't be busier. We were looking at where Idalia is, or the remnants of, a little bit earlier in the show. But just want to point out a few other features and things happening. Franklin losing its tropical characteristics as it continues to move slowly northward. We have Tropical Storm Jose. Also looks like it's going to travel somewhat northward, so not having an impact on too many areas at this point, so not needing to worry about it. This is Tropical Disturbance 2. That's the remnants of, do you remember Gert? That was Gert. So where do I want to draw your attention? This is Tropical Disturbance 1. So it's essentially a tropical wave that looks like there's going to be some development with that. Then is it going to turn to the north, or could we see some of those steering currents changing and pulling it a bit more westward? So that's definitely something we'll be watching. Something I hope you'll have a chance to be watching over the weekend will be the Canadian International Air Show from the 2nd right through to the 4th. These are the daytime highs, and the shows are from noon to about 3:30. So it would be near the end of the show where we'll be seeing the temperatures getting this warm, but I do want to caution you, we could get into some heat warnings by the time we're getting here to the 3rd and 4th, because the humidex values will be much more extreme, pushing into the upper 30s, even towards 40. And we have high UV indexes during the day as well, because of all the sunshine we'll be experiencing. Now, I will point out that although Friday is very sunny, a few fair weather clouds are going to push into Saturday, more so into southwestern Ontario. There will be a slim chance for a few isolated showers in that area as well. So just keep that in mind for your Saturday afternoon. Winds are on towards London, Chatham, Kent, Sarnia, through those regions. Temperatures tonight, there are still some single digits to be found on my board, but tomorrow that temperature, the daytime high, it starts to rise. It really begins coming up above seasonal as we go into next week. You see that humidex value. As far as records go, they're actually, Chris, quite high at this time of year, even into September, mid-30s to upper 30s. Tuesday, it's a little bit lower, and our temperature's a bit warmer, so we might take a run at it on that day.
All right. Finally, tonight, the Canadian International Air Show kicks off on Saturday at the CNE. It is 3 days of speed, precision, and high-flying aerial stunts. Greg Ross takes us on a preview.
2 big acts will be in the spotlight this weekend at the air show. This year we have a double headline. We have the United States Navy Blue Angels opening the show each day, and closing the show is our beloved Canadian Forces Snowbirds. We're thrilled to have them both back this year.
It's been 14 years since the U.S. Navy Blue Angels have been here in Toronto for the air show.
What can we expect to see these Blue Angels doing in the skies above Toronto this weekend?
So we have 6 beautiful blue and yellow airplanes, and then our 7th is the C-130J Super Hercules. You're going to get to see some kind of nice, precise finesse, and then some raw power.
Do your best to describe to me what it's like when you're sitting in the back of that plane and this thing is going full tilt.
So we pull about 7.5 Gs. So say you weigh about 100 pounds, you now weigh the equivalent of 750 pounds, which is pretty amazing. So it is hard on the body. It's a grueling thing, and it's just as mentally draining as physically.
Captain Katie Clapp has been flying with the Snowbirds for less than a year. This will be her first air show in Toronto. She gave us a rare glimpse inside one of the planes today.
I'm in the cockpit of a Snowbird. When you're up in the air, you literally are getting so close to those other planes that are in formation.
4 feet away.
4 feet away at hundreds of kilometers an hour.
Yes.
The first time you're in that formation, it's got to be nerve-wracking.
It is very nerve-wracking, especially in my position as an inner right wing. I've got people all around me.
The Snowbirds aren't the only classic Canadian planes that will be in the skies this weekend.
This T-33 was a Canadian-built, Canadair-built T-33 and flown in Canada for many years.
Just as interesting as the plane is its pilot. It will be flown by Rob Scratch Mitchell, who says he earned the nickname Scratch after he scratched the canopy of an F-18 when he was a young fighter pilot.
How do I get a nickname like Scratch?
Well, first off, you need to become a fighter pilot. You have to go flying with us and pass out or throw up or something.
That won't be happening this weekend. These planes and many more will be flying daily, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, Greg there, leaving it to the professionals. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Marivel Tarouk has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.